Hey all you gamers out there, want to know where you can find a PS5 for just $11? Right here at Sunward Hobbies. There you go, PS5. No refunds. Well, now that that lame joke is out of the way, how about we take a look at Tamiya's latest offering. Their 1/35th scale Leopard 2 A7V. And since I've already got my fatigues on today, why not check it out? I'm having deja vu here, aren't you? Yes, this is in fact a rebox of Tamiya's earlier Leopard 2 tanks, the first one being in 2004, and the latest one being the Ukrainian version, which by the way I reviewed on this channel a little while ago. And I'm sure you all know how I feel about reboxes, but in this particular case I don't mind it so much when it's different variants of the same subject, as you have the opportunity to add new parts or put in different marking options. But anyway, let's get started. Now the very first thing I noticed when I saw this was how much thicker this box is than the previous Leopard tanks. So that led me to believe that there may actually be quite a few new parts added here. But we'll see for ourselves. I'm sure I already mentioned it in the previous video that this is Germany's main battle tank, and it has been since the 70s. I may repeat several things that I already mentioned in that previous video. So let's just try to get through this as quick as we can so I don't annoy you saying things I've already said before. Okay, so first sprue here looks to be the mostly parts for the turret, maybe some parts for the main hull, as well as the cannon barrel. The box also mentions, which I usually don't see Tamiya doing this, but they advertise for some aftermarket parts, and here they specifically mention a metal gun barrel that you can add to this kit. Oh yeah, and while I'm on aftermarket, they do include a photo etch fret here, which looks to mainly just be some radiator screens. Next sprue here is parts for the hull of the tank. I already gushed about their detail on the Ukraine version, so we'll just quickly skim through this here. It's beautiful as always. More parts for the hull, as well as the sides of the tank where all the wheels and suspension go. Some more odds and ends. Things such as hatches for the crew to get inside the tank. Still looking good. So we have repeat sprues here. We'll just take a look at the first one, which is all wheels, suspension, and I suppose if you didn't want to work with the photo etch here, you would have this radiator to work with instead. Or the photo etch may just go right on top of that. We'll see in the instructions. And being that it's a tank, there's very little clear parts, so you just get this tiny sprue here with just a few windows, maybe some lights too. Two poly caps. To be honest, I'm not too sure where poly caps would go on a tank model. Usually these are for aircraft, so you can spin the propeller. Here we've got a tank crewman. The detail in the face, to be honest. Or no, it looks pretty good. And plus some of the accessories that go on top of the tank, like the tow cable, shovels, bags, plus one machine gun. Now this is where it gets interesting. If you remember my review of the Ukraine Leopard tank, it still had the traditional rubber tracks, the ones that people either like or hate. But here, you've got plastic tracks. And this should please any tank enthusiast out there. So you've basically got one lawn part for the bottom and the top of the treads. And then you've got these little parts here, which when you build each one up, they go along the curves of the wheels. And with this setup, you no longer have the issue of rubber tracks either being too short or too long and running the risk of having it too short and then you tighten it and it snaps, or too long and obviously it's droopy and doesn't fit well. Now this may be the first Tamiya tank that I've seen do this. Like I could be wrong, I'm not really a tank person. Maybe they did it on one of their other new releases not long ago, but this is the first time that I'm seeing it. And we got a little background info booklet here with full color illustration as to how the paint scheme of the tank will look in the traditional NATO 3-tone camouflage, as well as how you're expected to paint that tank crewman. That looks fun. We'll get to this in a second. Useless tech tips. And again, as usual with tanks, a very small decal sheet with just some iron crosses, German identification numbers, and what looks to be some stencils. And this part was interesting. A masking sheet. I'm not too sure what you would need to mask on a tank, other than maybe the tiny windows, the ones that are few and far between. But masks, if they come with the kit, they're always a welcome option. Although these ones are not die cut, you have to cut them out yourself. And lastly here we've got the photo etch fret. Like I mentioned before, it looks to mainly be radiator screens. And if you know, Tamiya photo etch tends to be a little thick. So that's great if you want a strong, sturdy etch metal part that won't bend or anything. It's not so great when you're trying to cut it out though. Alright, just give me a second to clean this all up and we'll look at the instructions. Well, look at that. As you can see this time, they actually bothered to make new illustrations for these instructions, which is more than I can say for the Ukrainian version of this model. They literally just recycled the instructions from the original 2004 build. Anyway, other than that, what's mentioned in terms of additions and updates for this version is, well, in real life at least, the Leopard 2 A7V features more armor in the front section of the hull as well as the side skirts, and it uses the same cannon barrel as the A6, but with the new updated shells. And again, since the instructions probably won't be too different from the previous one, I won't take up too much time here. So as standard with Tamiya, the paints map at the very front. Step 1, you're assembling the lower hull. Then attaching the, they call them bump stops or suspension, whatever. Then the tires. And here's where you assemble those new plastic tracks. Now, Tamiya did mention that these were snapped together. I don't know if that means you don't need any glue at all, but being a modeler, use glue. So yes, as you can see, the two long pieces go on the top and bottom, and then you're basically assembling these little parts piece by piece. you're attaching the rear panel, upper hull, driver's hatch, side skirts, and basically attaching all the handy accessories on top of the hull. Then moving on to the armor plates and attaching the engine grills, the tow cables, and then you're working on the turret, the inside first. Okay, now I see what those poly caps were for. So you can pivot the cannon up and down. And then you're assembling the turret and basically attaching the cannon to said turret. What do you know? Leopards have air conditioning. What a luxury. Anyway, storage boxes are next. The antenna case looks to be in the back. You're attaching a basket which comes with photo etch. And this may just be a jig that you use to help shape the photo etch part. Yeah, that looks to be right. Well, it's awful nice of Tamiya to include these. That makes photo etch bending quite a lot easier. And then basically some more finishing touches on the turret. Attaching the hatches. Some smoke grenade dischargers. And again, more accessories. And then at the end, you just slide that turret right on in there. And the machine gun. And the two tank crew members, a commander and a loader. And you're done. In conclusion, the Leopard A7V, typical Tamiya quality control, nice detail, well-fitting parts, and this time they took their time with the illustrations, and plus all the armor additions and all the other updates I'm sure would be a welcome feature to all you tank experts out there. So feel free to pick one up for yourself at Sunward Hobbies, in store or online. And please do us a favor, we've got plenty. So thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go back to hiding so they don't make me do stuff. Anyway, adios.